How to Quiet Your Anxious Mind works every time. There are nights when sleep refuses to come. You lie in the dark staring at the ceiling, and your mind races in circles you cannot escape. Every thought feels sharp, every worry louder than the silence that surrounds you. You rehearse conversations that never happened, regret choices that cannot be undone, and imagine futures that terrify you. The body lies still, but the mind runs marathons. It feels as if there is a storm inside your skull, and no matter how tightly you close your eyes, the thunder does not stop. If you have ever felt this, you know the weight of an anxious mind. It does not need a reason to torment you. It invents reasons from thin air. It makes you question your worth, your future, even your sanity. And the worst part is how alone it makes you feel, as if no one else could possibly understand the prison you are trapped in. But here is the truth that begins our journey. You are not alone. Millions carry this silent battle. They laugh in public, succeed at work, show up for family, but inside they are trembling. They live two lives, the one the world sees, and the one that never stops running in their head. This book is not written for the mask. It is written for the hidden self behind the mask. It is written for the nights when you cannot quiet your thoughts, for the mornings when dread greets you before sunlight does, for the moments when your heart races for no reason at all. And I must tell you something else. You do not need to live this way forever. The anxious mind convinces you that peace is impossible, that you are doomed to carry this noise until the end. But that is a lie. Peace is not only possible, it is already within you. The storm has made you forget, but there is a quiet center inside you that has never been touched by fear, never been shaken by panic, never been broken by despair. It is waiting for you. And the purpose of these pages is to guide you back there. If you will stay with me until the end of this journey, you will not only learn how to silence anxiety in the moment, it will no longer rule you. You will understand how to calm your body, how to direct your thoughts, and how to create habits that protect your peace. More than techniques, you will discover a way of living that turns storms into signals, that transforms panic into power, that allows you to breathe again, not shallow and frantic, but deep and steady, like the rhythm of the ocean. You will walk away not just with answers, but with freedom. The core philosophy of this book is simple, but it is not easy. Anxiety is not your enemy. Anxiety is a messenger. It is your body and mind's way of signaling that something is out of alignment. When you fight it, you feed it. When you fear it, you strengthen it. But when you learn to listen, to accept, and to redirect, you take back your power. The anxious mind cannot be defeated by force, but it can be quieted by understanding. Most people try to silence anxiety by drowning it out with distractions, with substances, with denial. But that only makes it louder. Imagine a child crying in a room. If you shout at the child to be quiet, the crying grows more desperate. But if you kneel, look into their eyes, and ask what they need, the crying softens. Your anxious mind is that child. It does not need punishment. It needs compassion. It does not need to be silenced. It needs to be heard, soothed, and guided. This is the shift that changes everything. And I will not lie to you, this is work. It will take patience. It will take courage. There will be moments when you stumble, when the old storm returns, when you feel like you are back where you started. But that is part of the process. Progress is not a straight line. Healing is not a single event. It is a practice, a discipline, a way of living that you grow into every day. The world will not slow down for you. It will keep throwing demands, deadlines, and doubts at you, but you can slow down inside. You can create a stillness so strong that chaos cannot shake it. That is what we are building together, a quiet mind in a loud world. So, as we begin, I invite you to let go of one belief right now, the belief that you are powerless. You are not powerless. Anxiety may have stolen your confidence, but it has not stolen your strength. It may have clouded your vision, but it has not extinguished your light. You are stronger than you know, and by the end of this journey you will see it for yourself. If you are reading this, it means part of you is ready to reset. Do not ignore that voice. Feed it. Follow it. Let it lead you through these pages and into the life you deserve, a life where your mind is no longer your enemy, but your ally, where peace is not a fleeting visitor, but a permanent home. And now, with open hands and an open heart, let us step into the quiet together. If you have read this far, I know you are searching for more than comfort. You are searching for freedom. Take a moment right now to comment below what is the one thought that troubles your mind most often. Naming it is the first act of power. And if these words spoke to you, share them with someone who needs them. You never know who might find hope because you decided to pass it on. And remember to subscribe to the channel so that this journey of peace does not end here, but continues to unfold step by step. Chapter 1. Learning to face the storm without fear. There is a moment when anxiety strikes that feels like drowning. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your mind spins faster than you can catch it. You want to escape, to run, to claw your way back to safety, but the more you resist, the deeper you sink. This is what makes anxiety so cruel. The harder you fight it, the stronger it becomes. Like quicksand, every frantic movement only pulls you down further. People who have never lived inside this storm cannot understand how paralyzing it feels. They may say, "Just calm down," or "Stop worrying so much," not realizing that if you could simply turn it off, you would have done so long ago. Anxiety is not a switch. It is a storm. And storms cannot be ignored. They must be faced. Most of us grow up believing that fear is a signal to retreat. We are taught that discomfort means danger, that uncertainty means stop. But in truth, fear is not a wall meant to block you. It is a doorway meant to be walked through. The storm is not here to destroy you, it is here to teach you. When you stop running and begin facing it, you discover that the thunder is not as loud as it seemed, the lightning not as deadly, the darkness not as endless. The struggle, of course, lies in our instinct. The human brain was designed for survival, not serenity. It evolved to keep you alive in the wild, to scan for danger, to respond with alarm at the slightest sign of threat. But what once protected you now imprisons you. In a world where physical threats are rare, your brain has turned inward, treating every worry, every memory, every possibility as if it were a lion about to attack. This is why your anxious mind feels relentless. It is doing its job too well. But the job it was built for is not the life you are living. So how do you face the storm without fear? The first step is recognition. You must learn to see anxiety for what it is, not a prophecy, but a pattern. Not truth, but a signal. Anxiety does not mean something terrible is about to happen. It means your mind is preparing you, alerting you, overreacting to shadows as if they were monsters. When you recognize this, you no longer take every anxious thought as fact. You begin to say, "This is anxiety speaking. This is not reality." That awareness alone weakens the storm. The second step is acceptance. This may sound impossible. Why would you accept something so painful? But acceptance does not mean surrender. Acceptance means you stop feeding the storm with resistance. You stop saying, "I must not feel anxious." You stop saying, "This should not be happening." You let the wave rise and you let it fall. You breathe into it. You say, "This is uncomfortable, but it is not fatal. This is frightening, but it is temporary." Acceptance turns panic into passing weather. It may rain, but it will not drown you. Think of it this way: if you are caught in the ocean and a wave knocks you down, thrashing against it only exhausts you. But if you let your body float, the wave carries you to the surface. Anxiety works the same way. Fighting amplifies it. Acceptance dissolves it. The third step is redirection. Once you have recognized and accepted anxiety, you can begin to guide it. Anxiety is energy, and energy can be redirected. Instead of pouring it into fear, you channel it into presence. You ground yourself in the here and now. Notice your breath. Notice the weight of your feet on the ground. Notice the details around you, the sound of a bird, the texture of the air, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. Every time your mind tries to drag you into imagined disasters, you bring it back to reality. And reality, when you look closely, is rarely as terrifying as your anxious mind insists. This practice is not easy. It takes patience, persistence, and courage. But with time, something extraordinary happens. The storm no longer controls you. You begin to realize that you can walk through anxiety and still function, still move, still live. The storm does not vanish, but you learn to carry your calm within it. That is the beginning of true freedom. Let me tell you a story. A woman once came to me saying she could not leave her house without panic attacks. For years, she avoided crowded places, avoided travel, avoided anything that might trigger her fear. Her world became smaller and smaller until she was living inside a cage of her own making. One day, she decided she had had enough. She told herself, if anxiety is going to come, let it come. I will not hide anymore. She started with small steps, walking to the mailbox, then around the block, then to the store. Each time anxiety came, but instead of running, she faced it. She let the storm rise and fall. Over months, she reclaimed her freedom, not because the storm disappeared, but because she discovered she was stronger than the storm. This is the lesson I want for you. Anxiety may always whisper, but it does not need to command. Fear may always knock, but it does not need to enter. The storm may always form, but you can learn to walk calmly through the rain. And in that calmness, you will discover something miraculous. The storm was never bigger than you. It only seemed that way because you never stopped to see your own strength. Now pause and reflect. How often have you let anxiety dictate your choices? How many times have you stayed silent when you wanted to speak? Stayed home when you wanted to go? Stayed small when you wanted to expand, simply because the storm threatened? And then ask yourself, what would my life look like if I stopped letting fear choose for me? What doors would open? What possibilities would bloom? The answer is clear. Everything would change. Your relationships, your work, your health, your joy, all of it expands when fear no longer writes the script. This is why learning to face the storm without fear is not just about calming anxiety. It is about reclaiming your life. If you are reading this and your heart is pounding because you know the storm well, I want you to know you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not hopeless. You are simply human, and being human means carrying storms inside you, but it also means carrying the strength to outlast them. So here is my challenge to you. The next time anxiety rises, do not run. Do not fight. Pause. Recognize it, accept it, redirect it, breathe, walk through the storm. Each time you do, you carve a new path of courage in your mind. Each time you do, the storm loses a little of its power, and each time you do, you prove to yourself that freedom is possible. If this message spoke to you, I want you to pause right now and comment, what storm are you facing today? Naming it is the first act of power. Share it not just for yourself, but for the countless others who will read your words and realize they are not alone. And if you found strength here, share this chapter with someone who needs it. You never know whose life you might change by reminding them that storms can be faced. And subscribe so that this journey of courage and calm continues to unfold in your life. Chapter 2. Breaking the cycle of overthinking. An anxious mind is not only loud, it is relentless. It plays the same thought over and over again like a scratched record stuck on one line. You replay conversations, analyzing every word you spoke, every glance you received, convinced you must have done something wrong. You imagine dozens of scenarios about the future, each one darker than the last, as if worry could prepare you for pain. You lie awake rehearsing, reviewing, rehashing, yet none of it brings peace. None of it brings clarity. This is the cycle of overthinking, and it is one of the cruelest traps of anxiety. The cycle begins innocently enough. Something unsettles you, a look, a comment, a deadline, an uncertainty. Your mind wants answers, so it begins to analyze. But the anxious mind does not know when to stop. Instead of solving, it spirals. It digs deeper and deeper until what began as a small concern grows into a mountain of imagined disasters. You tell yourself, if I think long enough, I will find relief. But the opposite happens. The more you think, the less peace you feel. The more you turn it over, the more tangled it becomes. Overthinking is not thinking at all. It is mental chewing gum, flavorless and endless. Why do we get stuck here? Because overthinking gives the illusion of control. The anxious mind whispers, if I just analyze this enough, I can prevent the worst. But thought is not control. Worry is not preparation. The only thing overthinking guarantees is exhaustion. You do not protect yourself from the future, you only rob yourself of the present. And yet so many of us live like this. We believe our minds are helping when in fact they are harming. We confuse motion with progress, noise with clarity. But clarity never comes from spiraling. Clarity comes from stopping. To break the cycle of overthinking, you must first recognize it as a cycle. Most people are unaware. They believe their anxious thoughts are important, urgent, meaningful. But pause and ask yourself, has overthinking ever solved the problem? Has it ever brought lasting peace? Or has it only made you tired, restless, and more uncertain? When you answer honestly, you see the truth. Overthinking is not your savior, it is your jailer. The way out is simple but not easy. You must learn to interrupt the cycle. You must train your mind to step off the hamster wheel and onto solid ground. And this begins with awareness. The moment you notice yourself spiraling, replaying the past, catastrophizing the future, you stop and say, this is overthinking. I will not go further down this road. Awareness is the first crack in the cycle's grip. The second step is grounding. Overthinking thrives in abstraction. It feeds on what if and maybe. The antidote is presence. When you feel yourself caught in mental loops, bring your attention to the here and now. Feel your breath enter and leave your body. Notice the sensations in your hands, your feet, your chest. Look at what is directly in front of you, the colors, the shapes, the sounds. Anchor yourself in reality, not imagination. Reality is almost always kinder than the stories your mind invents. The third step is redirection. Once you interrupt and ground, you must give your mind something else to do. If you simply tell it stop thinking, it will rebel. The mind hates a vacuum. So you redirect. Engage in a task, wash dishes, take a walk, write in a journal, call a friend. Physical action pulls you out of mental paralysis. Creativity, movement, or service turns the endless energy of thought into something that actually builds instead of destroys. But here is the most important step, compassion. Do not beat yourself up for overthinking. Do not add another layer of shame to the spiral. Say to yourself, my mind is trying to protect me, but it has gone too far. I choose to guide it now. Speak gently the way you would to a frightened child, because that is what overthinking is, a frightened child grasping for safety. When you respond with compassion instead of condemnation, you begin to soothe the storm instead of feeding it. Think of a man walking through the forest at night. He hears a rustle in the bushes. His mind screams, it is a predator. He imagines teeth, claws, attack. His heart races, his body prepares to run. But when he shines a light, it is only the wind moving leaves. This is what overthinking does. It convinces you that shadows are monsters. But when you shine the light of awareness, you see that most of your fears are only leaves in the wind. Let me share a real example. A young student once confessed that before every exam, she could not sleep for nights. She kept replaying every possible mistake she might make, imagining failure, picturing humiliation. By the time the exam arrived, she was so exhausted from overthinking that she could not focus. One day, she decided to try something different. When the spiral began, she interrupted it by naming it, "This is overthinking." She grounded herself with deep breathing, then redirected her energy into reviewing notes for 30 minutes and then going for a walk. Over time, she discovered that her anxiety did not vanish, but it lost its power. She no longer arrived at exams broken. She arrived steady. The cycle had been broken. This is what I want for you. Not a life without thoughts, but a life without the prison of endless loops. Not a mind that never worries, but a mind that knows when to stop. Peace is not the absence of thought. Peace is the presence of balance. So let me ask you, what loop has been running in your mind lately? What thought keeps circling without resolution? Name it now, write it down, see it for what it is, a cycle, not a truth. And then practice the steps: awareness, grounding, redirection, compassion. Each time you do, you weaken the cycle's hold. Each time you do, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. And remember, you do not need to be perfect. You will slip back into overthinking. That is human. But each time you notice and return, you grow stronger. Like a muscle, your mind learns through repetition. And soon what once felt impossible, breaking the cycle, becomes natural. If you are listening to this now, chances are you have felt the exhaustion of overthinking. You know the endless nights, the restless days, the spinning thoughts that steal your joy. Take heart. You are not broken. You are simply untrained, and training begins today. If this chapter spoke to you, pause right now and comment below, what is one thought loop you are ready to break? Declare it. Share it. Let others see your courage. And if you know someone who lives in the prison of overthinking, share this with them. Your words could be their key to freedom. And remember to subscribe to the channel so you never stop strengthening the quiet within. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Control and the Art of Letting Go. One of the greatest sources of anxiety is the desperate attempt to control what was never meant to be controlled. We want certainty in a world built on uncertainty. We want guarantees in a life that offers none. We want to know the outcome before we take the step, the ending before we begin, the answer before we ask the question. And when life refuses to bow to our demands, when events unfold in ways we cannot predict or prevent, anxiety grows like a shadow that never leaves. At the heart of the anxious mind is this illusion: if I can control everything, I will finally feel safe. And so we plan endlessly, analyze obsessively, rehearse conversations in our heads, check and double-check worry, as if worry itself were a form of protection. But no matter how much effort we give, life slips through our fingers. People surprise us. Circumstances shift. The unexpected arrives. And the harder we try to grip, the more exhausted and fragile we become. Think of holding sand in your palm. If you keep your hand relaxed, the sand stays. But if you clench your fist, trying to control every grain, the sand spills through the cracks until your palm is empty. Control works the same way. The tighter you hold, the less peace you have. Why do we get trapped here? Because the mind equates control with safety. From childhood, we were taught to manage, to predict, to prepare. And in many areas of life, control works. If you study, you are more likely to pass the test. If you work hard, you are more likely to succeed. But when it comes to the larger movements of life, the choices of others, the timing of events, the mysteries of health, fate, or love, control is an illusion. The mind refuses to accept this, so it keeps trying, like a bird flying into a glass window again and again, believing that persistence will break through what is unbreakable. Here lies the paradox. The more you try to control, the less control you actually feel. The anxious mind becomes consumed with what-ifs, forever living in futures that have not yet happened. And in the attempt to secure tomorrow, you sacrifice today. You trade peace for prediction. You trade presence for illusion. But there is another way. It is called letting go. And for the anxious mind, this is the most radical, terrifying, liberating act imaginable. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you live recklessly. It means you release the impossible task of controlling what is not yours to control, so that you can focus on what is. Imagine you are standing on a riverbank holding a heavy stone. It weighs down your arm, pulls at your shoulder, drains your energy. You stare at the stone, analyzing its shape, wondering why it is yours to carry. You imagine what might happen if you drop it. Will someone judge you? Will you regret it? So you keep holding it even as it hurts you. This is what the anxious mind does with control. It clings to burdens it was never meant to carry. But the river is right there. The moment you open your hand and let the stone fall, the weight is gone. The river carries it away. You are lighter. You are free. The art of letting go begins with clarity. Ask yourself, what am I truly in control of? The list is smaller than you think. You cannot control what others say or do. You cannot control the weather, the market, or the timing of events. But you can control your choices, your responses, your effort, your attitude. That is where your power lies. And when you focus on what you can control and release, the rest, peace returns. The next step is trust. This is the hardest for the anxious mind because trust feels like weakness. But trust is not weakness, it is strength. It is the recognition that life is wiser than your plans. It is the humility to admit you do not have to figure everything out. Trust is not passive, it is active surrender. It is saying, I will do my part, and then I will let life do its part. One man once told me that his greatest freedom came when he stopped trying to plan every detail of his future. For years, he mapped out his career, his relationships, his finances, terrified that if he left anything to chance, he would fail. But life never followed his plans. Every time it deviated, he felt panic. One day, exhausted, he asked himself, what if I stopped demanding certainty and started living with openness? It was terrifying, but he tried. He took the next step without needing to know the entire road. And slowly he discovered that life gave him more than he could have planned. Not because he controlled it, but because he trusted it. This is the essence of letting go, replacing control with courage, replacing prediction with presence, replacing fear with faith. You stop demanding to know the outcome before you act. You take the step even trembling and discover the ground appears beneath your feet as you walk. The practice is simple, though not easy. When you feel anxiety rising, pause and ask yourself, am I trying to control the uncontrollable? If the answer is yes, breathe. Release it. Hand it back to life, to the river, to the mystery. Then ask, what is mine to do right now? Focus on that and only that. Step by step, moment by moment, you move forward. It will feel strange at first because control has been your shield. But you will discover something extraordinary when you let go. Life does not collapse. The world does not end. In fact, peace begins to grow where panic once lived. You feel lighter, freer, more present. You realize you never needed control to be safe. You only needed trust to be alive. So I ask you now, what stone are you still carrying? What illusion of control is weighing you down? Is it the belief that you can prevent every mistake, that you can guarantee everyone will like you, that you can predict the future? These stones are not yours. Drop them. The river is waiting. Letting go is not a single act. It is a daily practice. Every morning, remind yourself, I will focus on what I can control. I will release what I cannot. I will trust life enough to live it. Do this again and again until it becomes your default. And watch as anxiety loosens its grip, not because life has become easier, but because you have become freer. If these words speak to you, take one step right now. Comment below with one thing you are ready to release. Declare it, share it. Let your courage inspire someone else who is holding the same stone. And if this chapter lightened your heart, pass it on. Someone you know is carrying a weight they do not need to bear. And subscribe so that every day you are reminded you do not have to control everything. You only have to live with open hands. Chapter 4. Calming the body to calm the mind. Anxiety often feels like it begins in the mind, but its roots are buried deep in the body. The racing thoughts, the restless energy, the endless what-ifs. They all have physical echoes. Your heart pounds, your stomach tightens, your palms sweat, your breath becomes shallow. You tell yourself, I must calm my mind, but the more you try, the more restless your body becomes. What few people realize is that the mind and body are not separate kingdoms, they are one. When the body is on fire, the mind burns too. And when you calm the body, the flames in the mind begin to fade. Think of anxiety as a feedback loop. A worried thought triggers tension in the body, and that tension signals danger back to the mind, which then creates more worried thoughts. Round and round it goes, a spiral that feels impossible to stop. But the secret is this: you can interrupt the cycle at the level of the body. You do not always have to reason your way to calm. You can breathe your way there, move your way there, ground your way there. The body is the doorway to peace. The struggle begins with awareness. Most people do not notice how much anxiety lives in their bodies until it overflows. They only see the racing mind, not the clenched jaw. They only hear the panic, not the shallow breath. But if you pause and scan yourself in anxious moments, you will notice your shoulders are tight, your stomach knotted, your chest constricted. Your body is speaking louder than your thoughts. To calm it, you must listen first. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is the breath. Anxiety shortens the breath. It keeps you in survival mode, chest-tight, lungs half-filled. But you can reverse this. Deep, slow breathing tells the body, you are safe. It signals the nervous system to stand down, to leave fight or flight, and return to balance. Try it now. Inhale slowly through your nose, letting your belly expand. Hold for a moment. Exhale fully through your mouth, longer than your inhale. Repeat. Within minutes, the storm begins to soften. Your mind quiets not because you forced it, but because you soothed its foundation. Movement is another path. Anxiety is energy trapped in the body. If you sit still, it builds and builds until it explodes as panic. But if you move, walk, stretch, dance, run, you release the energy. You give it a channel. Even a few minutes of physical movement can reset your nervous system. That is why, after a long, anxious day, a walk outside feels like medicine. You return calmer not because your problems vanished, but because your body released what it was holding. Grounding techniques are equally powerful. Anxiety lives in the future, in imagined disasters, in what-ifs, in tomorrow's fears. The body, however, lives only in the present. When you bring attention to your senses, you anchor yourself here and now, where anxiety cannot survive. Look around. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This simple exercise pulls you out of your head and into your body, where peace waits. Let me share a story. A young man once told me he dreaded public speaking. Every time he had to present, his mind filled with catastrophic thoughts. I will forget everything. They will laugh at me. I will fail. His body responded with shaking hands, sweating, and shortness of breath. For years, he avoided opportunities because of this. Then he learned one simple practice before speaking. He took 3 deep belly breaths, planted his feet firmly on the ground, and pressed his thumb and forefinger together to anchor his focus. Slowly, his body calmed, and as his body calmed, his mind followed. Today, he speaks confidently, not because he eliminated fear, but because he learned to regulate his body's response. This is the secret. You do not always need to fight your thoughts. You can bypass them. By calming the body, you quiet the mind. By regulating the physical, you restore balance to the mental. And with practice, this becomes your natural response. But do not mistake calm for weakness. Calm is power. Anyone can panic when life presses them. Anyone can collapse when fear shouts. But the one who can breathe deeply in chaos, who can steady their body when storms rage, that one holds true strength. Calm is not the absence of anxiety. Calm is the mastery of presence. Here is the challenge. The next time anxiety rises, do not battle your thoughts. Instead, drop into your body. Feel your breath. Notice your muscles. Move if you need to. Ground yourself in the present. Let your body remind your mind of a truth. Anxiety tries to hide you are safe right here, right now. So I ask you, how does anxiety live in your body? Do you carry it in your chest, in your stomach, in your jaw? Notice it, name it, and then soothe it with breath, with movement, with grounding. You will be amazed at how quickly the storm loses its power when you tend to its roots. If this chapter speaks to you, pause right now and comment what is one practice you will use to calm your body today. Declaring it makes it real. And if you know someone who lives trapped in a restless body, share this with them. You may give them the first taste of peace they have had in years. And subscribe so that your journey toward calm and freedom continues to unfold one step at a time. Chapter 5. The practice of self-compassion in anxious moments. Anxiety does not only shake the mind, it also poisons the way you see yourself. Every time your heart races, every time your thoughts spin out of control, every time you cannot sleep because worry has chained you awake, a quiet shame begins to form. You start to think, what is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why can everyone else live normally, but I cannot? The anxious mind is not content with tormenting you about the future. It also attacks your worth in the present. And slowly you begin to believe the lie that you are broken, weak, or failing at life. This is why self-compassion is not a luxury, it is survival. Without it, anxiety becomes a double prison. You suffer not only from fear, but also from your own judgment about that fear. You feel the storm and then blame yourself for being caught in it. But compassion breaks this cycle. Compassion says, yes, I feel anxious. Yes, I am struggling, but that does not mean I am broken. It means I am human. And being human means deserving kindness, especially from myself. Why is self-compassion so difficult for anxious people? Because we believe cruelty is strength. We believe that if we criticize ourselves enough, we will finally fix ourselves. We repeat harsh words in the hope that they will push us into change. But cruelty never creates healing. Shame never builds strength. You cannot bully yourself into peace. The anxious mind already feeds on fear. Adding your own voice of judgment only gives it more fuel. Think of a frightened child. The child is crying, trembling, overwhelmed. Imagine standing over that child and yelling, "What is wrong with you? Stop crying. Be stronger." Would the child calm down, or would the crying grow louder, the fear deeper? Now imagine kneeling beside the child, holding them gently, whispering, "It is okay. I am here. You are safe. We will get through this." Slowly the child softens. Slowly the storm eases. Your anxious mind is that child. It does not need punishment. It needs compassion. But compassion is not pity. Compassion is strength. It takes courage to turn toward your pain instead of away from it. It takes maturity to say, I can be kind to myself, even in my weakest moment. And it takes wisdom to realize that self-compassion is not indulgence, it is responsibility. Because when you treat yourself with kindness, you build resilience. You make it possible to face anxiety without being crushed by it. The practice begins with awareness. In anxious moments, listen for your inner voice. What does it say? Does it call you names? Does it say you are failing, weak, hopeless? Recognize this voice for what it is. An echo of old conditioning. It is not truth. It is not who you are. It is a habit of thought, and habits can be changed. The next step is replacement. Each time the cruel voice arises, respond with compassion. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend. If your friend came to you saying, I feel anxious, I feel broken, you would not say, you are pathetic. You would say, I know this hurts. But you are not broken. You are stronger than you realize. You will get through this. Give those same words to yourself. Write them down. Repeat them. Let them become your new default. One woman once told me that her turning point came when she changed a single sentence. Every time anxiety rose, her mind used to scream, I cannot handle this. She began replacing it with, This is hard, but I am learning to handle it. At first, it felt false, but she repeated it anyway. Over time, the sentence became truth. She discovered she could handle more than she ever imagined. Self-compassion had opened a doorway to resilience. The third step is gentleness in action. Compassion is not only words, it is also how you treat yourself in anxious moments. Do you push harder, demand more, punish yourself? Or do you slow down, breathe, and offer yourself care? Sometimes compassion looks like pausing to rest. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like asking for help. Each of these is an act of courage, not weakness. Compassion also requires perspective. Anxiety convinces you that you are alone, that no one else feels the way you do. But the truth is, millions share your struggle. Self-compassion reminds you, this is part of the human experience. I am not the only one. I am not defective. I am not alone. Knowing this lightens the weight. You stop seeing yourself as an outcast and start seeing yourself as human. Here is the paradox: when you stop fighting yourself, anxiety begins to lose its grip. When you stop layering shame on top of fear, the storm softens. Compassion does not erase anxiety, but it creates space around it. Space to breathe, space to choose, space to remember that you are more than your symptoms. So let me ask you, how do you speak to yourself when anxiety comes? Are you your own enemy or your own ally? Do you attack yourself or do you comfort yourself? The answer matters, because the way you treat yourself determines whether you heal or stay stuck. I want you to imagine right now that your anxious self, the version of you that trembles, panics, overthinks, is sitting in front of you as a child. Look into their eyes. What do they need to hear? What words would soften their fear? Now speak those words not to the imaginary child, but to yourself. This is self-compassion in action. It will feel strange at first because the habit of cruelty runs deep. But each time you practice, you carve a new path. Each time you replace judgment with kindness, you build strength. And over time, the anxious moments no longer feel like enemies to be defeated, but opportunities to practice compassion. This is how anxiety transforms from a curse into a teacher. If you are reading this, chances are you have carried the heavy burden of self-criticism for years. You may have believed that you were weak, broken, or unworthy because of your anxiety. I am here to tell you none of that is true. You are not broken, you are not weak, you are human, and you deserve compassion, especially from yourself. So here is my challenge. The next time anxiety rises, do not fight it and do not fight yourself. Place a hand on your heart, breathe deeply, whisper, I am safe, I am human, I will get through this. And watch as the storm begins to soften. If this chapter spoke to you, pause and comment below. What kind words will you choose to tell yourself the next time anxiety comes? Declare it. Let others see your courage. And if you know someone who attacks themselves in their anxious moments, share this with them. Your compassion may become their lifeline. And subscribe so that you continue to strengthen the voice of kindness within you. Chapter 6. Reclaiming Your Nights. Finding Peace in the Dark. For many people, anxiety speaks the loudest at night. The world grows quiet, the noise of the day fades, and suddenly there is nothing left but you and your thoughts. You lie in bed, lights off, body tired but mind restless. Every regret resurfaces. Every fear grows teeth. Every doubt becomes louder in the silence. What should be a time of rest becomes a battlefield where you are outnumbered by your own thoughts. The anxious night is a cruel paradox. Your body longs for sleep, but your mind will not allow it. And the more you try to force sleep, the further it slips away. You watch the clock tick, midnight, 1, 2, 3, each passing hour feeding your panic. If I do not sleep now, tomorrow will be ruined. That thought alone keeps you awake. By morning, you feel broken, drained, defeated, and the cycle repeats the next night. Why is night so hard? Because distraction disappears. During the day, you can outrun your thoughts with busyness. You can drown them in work conversations, screens, noise. But at night, when the world falls silent, you are left with yourself. Anxiety seizes the opportunity. It whispers, "Now you must face me." And without tools, you feel powerless. But you are not powerless. You can reclaim your nights. You can turn them from battlegrounds into sanctuaries. Peace in the dark is not only possible, it is waiting for you. And it begins with a shift. Instead of seeing night as your enemy, see it as your teacher. The dark does not come to punish you. It comes to remind you that silence is not emptiness, it is space. Space where you can breathe, heal, and rest. The first step is preparation. Sleep does not begin when you close your eyes. It begins hours before. Yet many of us rush into bed carrying the chaos of the day, unfinished tasks, glowing screens, tense conversations. We expect the body to shut down instantly, like flipping a switch. But the body is not a machine. It is a garden. It needs time to soften, to settle, to prepare for rest. This is why creating an evening ritual is powerful. Dim the lights, step away from screens, breathe deeply, read something gentle. Stretch, signal to your body. The day is done. It is safe to rest. The second step is acceptance. If you lie awake, do not panic. The anxious mind turns minutes of wakefulness into hours of suffering with thoughts like, "I must sleep now," but sleep cannot be forced. Acceptance means saying, "Even if I am awake, I am still resting. Even if I do not sleep quickly, my body is healing by lying here." This shift alone removes half the pressure, and when pressure lifts, sleep often comes naturally. The third step is grounding. When thoughts spiral at night, return to your senses. Notice the weight of the blanket, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of the quiet around you. Feel your body sinking into the mattress. Each time your mind tries to run, bring it gently back to the body. It is like guiding a restless child back to bed again and again. Patience is key. The fourth step is compassion. Do not attack yourself for being awake. Do not call yourself weak. Whisper kindness. "I am safe. I am resting." Sleep will come when it is ready. Speak gently to yourself as you would to someone you love. The anxious night feeds on cruelty, but it starves when you offer compassion. And sometimes the most powerful step is surrender. You may not sleep as much as you wish tonight. That is okay. Trust that your body will take what it needs. One night does not define you. Tomorrow will still unfold. Anxiety loses its grip when you stop making sleep an enemy and start treating it as a gift that cannot be forced, only received. I once spoke with a man who had suffered from insomnia for years. He said the turning point came when he stopped fighting. "I used to lie in bed angry at myself, counting every lost hour. One night I decided if I cannot sleep, I will still rest. I breathed. I listened to soft music. I released the panic. And strangely, when I stopped demanding sleep, it arrived. This is the paradox of peace. It comes when you stop chasing it. Night does not have to be the enemy. It can become your ally. Imagine lying in bed not as a prisoner, but as a pilgrim entering sacred silence, trusting that rest will come. Imagine the dark not as a void, but as a womb holding you, protecting you, nurturing you back to strength. Imagine waking not defeated, but grateful for whatever rest you received, for another chance at life. This is possible. It begins with a choice. So let me ask you, what is your relationship with the night? Do you fear it, resent it, dread it? Or can you begin to welcome it as a teacher of patience, surrender, and presence? Tonight, when you lie down, whisper to yourself, "The day is over. I release it. I am safe in this moment. Rest will come." Breathe slowly. Trust deeply. Let the dark cradle you instead of crush you. If this chapter speaks to your heart, take a moment to comment below what is one small change you will make tonight to reclaim your peace. Share it so that others who fear the night will find hope. And if you know someone who battles anxiety when the world grows quiet, share this with them. Your words may be the comfort that helps them rest. And remember to subscribe so that every evening you are reminded peace is not a dream, it is your birthright. Chapter 7. Transforming Worry into Wisdom. Worry is the favorite weapon of the anxious mind. It comes dressed as concern disguised as responsibility, and it whispers, if you think about this enough, you will be safe. At first, worry feels like protection. You imagine scenarios, you plan responses, you prepare for every possibility. But slowly, worry grows heavier. It no longer feels like a tool, it feels like a chain. Instead of preparing you, it paralyzes you. Instead of bringing peace, it steals it. Worry becomes not a servant, but a master. And under its rule, your days blur into restless nights, your energy is drained, and your joy is stolen. The truth is, worry does not prevent pain. It only robs you of the strength to face it. When the moment finally arrives, you are already exhausted from living it 100 times in your head. You suffer twice, once in imagination, once in reality. Sometimes you suffer 10 times, 20 times without the event ever happening at all. Worry is a thief that makes you pay for a crime that was never committed. Why do we cling to worry? Because it gives the illusion of control. The anxious mind whispers, if I can anticipate every outcome, I can avoid danger, but life does not bend to your imagination. Worry cannot change the future. It cannot guarantee safety. What it does guarantee is suffering in advance. So how do we escape? Not by eliminating worry altogether. That would be impossible. Worry at its core is simply attention directed toward the future. The problem is not worry itself. It is how you use it. Left unchecked, worry becomes poison. But if you learn to guide it, worry can become wisdom. The first step is awareness. Notice when worry arises. Do not take it at face value. Ask yourself, is this worry helping me act, or is it only looping endlessly? Helpful worry sparks preparation. Unhelpful worry spins circles. Helpful worry says, the exam is coming, I should study. Unhelpful worry says, what if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if my whole future is ruined? The difference is clear. One leads to action, the other to paralysis. The second step is discernment. When worry appears, ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release it. Worry about things you can change is energy for growth. Worry about things you cannot change is wasted life. The weather, the choices of others, the past, none of these are yours to control. And yet how much of your worry is spent there? Each time you notice, gently remind yourself, not mine to carry, and let it go. The third step is transformation. Worry always carries a message. Beneath the noise is a signal. Fear of failure signals a desire for growth. Fear of loss signals the depth of your love. Fear of uncertainty signals your craving for stability. If you listen carefully, worry can reveal what matters most to you. Instead of drowning in the noise, you can harvest the wisdom. Ask, what is this worry pointing me toward? What value is hiding inside this fear? Then act on that value instead of feeding the fear. I once met a young mother who confessed that she worried constantly about her children. Every cough, every bruise, every late text filled her with panic. She felt trapped by fear, but she did not want to stop caring. When we spoke, I asked her, what does your worry say about you? She thought for a moment and said, it says I love them deeply. That love was the wisdom beneath the worry. Once she saw that she shifted. Instead of spiraling in fear, she chose to act on her love, spending more quality time teaching them resilience, building trust. The worry did not vanish overnight, but it softened because she was no longer its prisoner. She had turned it into guidance. This is the invitation. Worry can be a teacher if you stop letting it be a tyrant. Each time worry arises, instead of spiraling, pause and ask, what is the wisdom here? Then use that wisdom to live more fully. But transformation also requires boundaries. You cannot let worry run your life unchecked. One practice is scheduling your worry. Choose a short window each day, 15 minutes in the morning or evening, when you allow yourself to write down or think through your concerns. Outside that window, if worry arises, you tell yourself, "I will deal with this later." This creates space. It teaches your mind that worry does not own your every moment. And strangely, when the scheduled time arrives, many of the worries no longer feel urgent. Another practice is gratitude. Worry focuses on what might go wrong. Gratitude focuses on what is already right. Each time you feel trapped in worry, pause and list 3 things you are grateful for in this moment. Gratitude shifts your mind from fear to presence. It reminds you that life is not only danger, it is also beauty. It is also love. It is also grace. And perhaps the most radical practice is surrender. At the heart of worry is the refusal to trust. You do not trust yourself. You do not trust others. You do not trust life. But surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is saying, "I will do what I can, and I will trust the rest to unfold as it should." This is not weakness, it is freedom. Because once you surrender, worry loses its grip. You no longer carry the unbearable weight of trying to control the uncontrollable. You rest in trust. So let me ask you, what is your worry teaching you? What wisdom hides beneath your fear? If you listen, you may discover that your greatest worries are signposts pointing you to your deepest values. Fear of failure reveals your hunger to grow. Fear of rejection reveals your longing to connect. Fear of loss reveals your capacity to love. Instead of drowning in worry, let it reveal what matters most and then live for that. If you are reading this, I invite you to pause right now. Take one worry that has been haunting you. Write it down. Then ask, what is the wisdom here? What value is this worry protecting? Once you see it, act on the value instead of the fear. This is how you reclaim power. Worry will never disappear entirely, but it does not have to rule you. It can serve you. It can guide you. It can be transformed from a thief into a teacher. And when you master this transformation, you discover that peace is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of wisdom. If this chapter touched you, take a moment to comment below. What is one worry you are ready to transform into wisdom? Share it and let others find courage in your honesty. And if you know someone who is drowning in worry, pass this on. Your words may be the light that helps them rise. And remember to subscribe so that your journey from fear to wisdom continues step by step. Chapter 8. Building inner safety when the world feels uncertain. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty. It feeds on the unknown, the unpredictable, the uncontrollable. The anxious mind craves guarantees, proof that things will turn out well, assurance that nothing bad will happen. But life offers no such promises. No matter how hard you plan, no matter how carefully you prepare, uncertainty always lingers. And when the mind cannot find solid ground outside, it trembles inside. This is why so many anxious souls feel unsafe, even in safe places. You can be sitting in your living room surrounded by comfort and still feel danger pressing in. You can be walking in a quiet park, nothing threatening around you, and still. Your chest tightens, your heart races, your mind whispers of disasters waiting just beyond sight. It is not the world that feels unsafe. It is your inner world that lacks safety. True peace does not come from controlling your surroundings. It comes from building inner safety, a sanctuary within you that no storm, no news, no uncertainty can destroy. When you carry inner safety, you can face the outer unknown with calm. You become like a tree in the wind. The storm may bend your branches, but your roots hold firm. But how do you build such safety when fear feels louder than faith? It begins with remembering a simple truth. Danger and discomfort are not the same. The anxious mind confuses the two. If you feel uncertain, your brain says, "I am unsafe." If you feel nervous, your brain screams, "I am in danger." But discomfort is not danger. Fear is not fatal. Anxiety is not reality. Recognizing this distinction is the first brick in your foundation of inner safety. The next step is self-trust. Inner safety cannot exist without it. You do not need certainty about the future if you trust your ability to face it. Think of it when you were a child, you felt safe, not because the world was safe, but because someone you trusted was by your side. That is what self-trust provides. When you say to yourself, "No matter what happens, I can handle it," you give your anxious mind the parent it has been longing for. You create safety, not by eliminating risk, but by believing in your resilience. How do you build this trust? Through practice. Each time you face something you thought you could not handle and survive, you strengthen your belief. Each time you walk through fear instead of running, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Over time, these moments accumulate until you no longer doubt your ability. You stop asking, "What if I cannot handle it?" and start saying, "I will handle it when it comes." Another layer of inner safety is grounding in the present. Anxiety pulls you into imagined futures where everything goes wrong. But those futures are not real. What is real is here now, the chair you sit on, the air filling your lungs, the ground beneath your feet. When you anchor yourself in the present moment, you remind your nervous system, "Right now I am safe." And that truth is almost always undeniable. One powerful practice is to repeat gently to yourself during anxious waves. In this moment, I am safe. Say it as you breathe. Feel it in your body. Even if the mind protests, keep returning to the words. Over time, the nervous system learns to believe what the mind resists. Safety begins to grow from within. Connection is also vital. Isolation magnifies anxiety. When you are alone with your fears, they echo endlessly. But when you share them with someone who understands, the echo softens. Safety grows in connection. A hand held, a voice heard, a heart understood. These are anchors stronger than fear. You do not need to face the uncertain world alone. Every human heart longs for safety, and together we remind one another that it is possible. I once spoke with a man who had lived through profound loss. He told me that for years he felt unsafe everywhere. Even simple things, walking into a store, meeting a friend, filled him with dread. I realized, he said, that I was waiting for the world to make me feel safe again, but the world cannot promise that. So I decided I will build safety inside myself. He practiced grounding self-trust and compassion. He surrounded himself with people who reminded him of his strength. Slowly, the panic loosened its grip. Today, he still faces uncertainty, but he no longer trembles. His safety is not out there, it is in here. This is the lesson for you. Do not wait for the world to be certain before you choose to feel safe. If you do, you will wait forever. Instead, begin building your sanctuary within. Remind yourself uncertainty is part of life, but I am not powerless. I can breathe, I can ground, I can trust myself. I am safe in this moment. Each repetition builds your foundation. Each practice strengthens your roots. And when the next storm comes, as it surely will, you will notice something extraordinary. The wind may howl, the rain may fall, but inside you, a stillness remains. You may tremble, but you will not break. You may fear, but you will not fall. Because you are rooted in inner safety, and that safety cannot be taken from you. So let me ask you, what does safety mean to you? Is it the absence of uncertainty or the presence of resilience? Is it control over everything or trust in yourself? Take a moment now to redefine it. Write your definition of inner safety. Claim it as your own. If this chapter resonates with you, I invite you to comment below. What is one practice you will begin today to build your inner safety? Share it, and you may inspire someone else who feels unsafe in their own mind. And if you know someone whose world feels uncertain, share this with them. You may give them the reminder they desperately need. Safety is not found out there, it is built in here. And remember to subscribe so that you continue to grow the sanctuary within you. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. Chapter 9. Turning anxiety into a call for growth. Most people see anxiety only as an enemy. It is the shadow that follows them, the weight that drags them down the storm that steals their peace. They pray for it to disappear. They fight to silence it. They dream of living without it. But what if anxiety was not only a curse? What if hidden beneath its sharp edges, anxiety was carrying a message? What if it was not here only to torment you, but to point you toward growth? Think of it this way: fire can destroy, but it can also purify. Storms can flood, but they also renew the soil. Anxiety can cripple, but it can also awaken. Every time your heart races, every time your thoughts spiral, every time you feel trapped, anxiety is asking you a question: what needs to change? What truth have you been ignoring? What strength is waiting to rise? If you listen, anxiety becomes a teacher. The anxious mind often signals misalignment. Perhaps you are living in a way that betrays your values. Perhaps you are staying in a place that no longer fits you. Perhaps you are clinging to control instead of embracing trust. Anxiety surfaces not to punish you, but to call you to attention. It is the alarm bell that says something in your life is asking for growth. Consider the person who dreads every morning because of their job. Their anxiety spikes on Sunday nights, their stomach knots at the thought of Monday. They believe something is wrong with them. Why can I not handle this like everyone else? But their anxiety is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is pointing out that they are in the wrong environment, that their soul is craving something more meaningful. The real problem is not their anxious symptoms, it is their ignored calling. Or think of the person who feels panic every time they enter a relationship. They blame themselves for being broken. But anxiety here is not only fear, it is a mirror reflecting unhealed wounds, old betrayals, unmet needs. It is saying, you cannot grow in love until you face the pain you are carrying. If they listen, anxiety becomes the doorway to healing and deeper connection. The key is listening differently. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this anxiety, begin asking, what is this anxiety trying to tell me? That single shift transforms panic into purpose. Suddenly, instead of drowning in fear, you are searching for wisdom, and wisdom always leads to growth. But listening does not mean obeying every anxious thought. Anxiety often exaggerates, catastrophizes, distorts. Its words are not the message. Its presence is. The question is not, is this anxious thought true? But rather, why is my body sounding the alarm? What deeper truth is being hidden beneath this noise? When you begin to see anxiety as a messenger, you can respond with curiosity instead of condemnation. Curiosity softens the edges. It allows you to explore instead of resist. And exploration always leads to growth. One man once told me that for years he fought his anxiety with anger. Every time he felt his chest tighten, he cursed himself. Every time panic came, he hid in shame, but nothing changed. One day he tried something new. He asked his anxiety, "What do you want me to see?" Slowly answers came. He realized he was living a life of constant people-pleasing, abandoning himself to keep others happy. His anxiety was not a flaw, it was a protest. It was his soul crying out for authenticity. When he began to live more honestly, the anxiety softened, not because it disappeared, but because it had done its job. Growth does not mean the end of fear. Growth means learning to walk with fear and still move forward. Anxiety may never vanish completely, but its role can change. Instead of being your jailer, it can become your guide. Instead of blocking your path, it can point the way. So how do you practice this? Begin by noticing patterns. When does your anxiety flare the most? In certain places, with certain people, during certain choices. Write it down. Patterns are clues. They reveal where your soul is calling for change. Next, ask the deeper question. What is this anxiety asking of me? Perhaps it is asking you to slow down. Perhaps it is asking you to face an old wound. Perhaps it is asking you to take a risk, to step into courage, to stop hiding from life. Whatever the answer, listen, and then take one small step in that direction. Finally, shift your relationship with growth itself. Anxiety often spikes when you leave your comfort zone. The mind screams danger, but often it is not danger, it is growth. New beginnings always feel like risk. Transformation always feels like fear. But fear is not a stop sign, it is a signal that you are entering new territory. And new territory is where life expands. Imagine a seed underground. In the dark, it feels pressure resistance breaking. If it could speak, it might say, "Something is wrong. I am being torn apart." But in truth, it is growing. The pressure is not punishment, it is transformation. Anxiety feels the same. It may feel like breaking, but it is often birthing something new inside you. So I ask you now, what is your anxiety trying to tell you? What growth is waiting behind the fear? Will you keep running, or will you pause long enough to listen? The answer could change everything. Anxiety may never vanish from your life, but it does not have to dominate it. It can become your teacher, your guide, your signal toward growth. And when you begin to see it this way, you no longer resent it, you respect it. You no longer see yourself as broken, you see yourself as being called higher. If this chapter speaks to you, pause and comment below, what growth is your anxiety calling you toward? Declare it, and you may inspire others to see their own fear differently. And if you know someone who feels crushed by anxiety, share this with them. It may be the perspective that turns their prison into a path. And remember to subscribe so that together we continue to transform fear into wisdom and anxiety into a call for growth. Chapter 10. Creating space between you and your thoughts. Anxiety convinces you that your thoughts are truth. A single worry arises. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if something terrible happens and before you realize it, you are swept into the current? The thought becomes your reality. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Your body reacts as if the danger were here already. You do not pause to question. You do not stop to observe. You simply believe. And belief gives anxiety its power. But here is the truth most people never hear. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are not commands. They are not facts. They are clouds drifting across the sky of your mind, shapes that form, and pass sometimes dark, sometimes light, but never permanent. When you learn to see them this way, you create space. And in that space, freedom is born. The anxious mind blurs this space. It fuses thought with identity. You no longer think I had a fearful thought. You think I am afraid. You no longer think a doubt crossed my mind. You think I am weak. The difference is everything. When you mistake your thoughts for yourself, you become their prisoner. But when you step back and notice them as passing events, you become their witness. The prison door opens. Creating space between you and your thoughts is not about silencing them. It is about changing your relationship with them. Imagine sitting beside a river. Thoughts are leaves floating by. You do not need to jump in and grab each one. You do not need to stop the river. You simply watch. Some leaves are ugly, some are beautiful, but none define you. You are the one sitting on the bank. You are not the river. This practice is called mindfulness, but do not let the word intimidate you. At its heart, mindfulness is simply awareness with kindness. It is noticing your thoughts without judgment, without attachment. It is saying, here is worry, here is fear, here is hope, and then letting them pass. Over time, you realize you are larger than any single thought. You are the sky, not the cloud. You are the ocean, not the wave. The anxious mind resists this at first. It insists that every thought is urgent. What if this worry is important? What if ignoring it means disaster? But notice how many of your anxious thoughts have come and gone without ever coming true. Notice how many sleepless nights were spent fearing things that never happened. This is the evidence thoughts are not truth. They are possibilities, nothing more. To practice creating space, begin small. The next time an anxious thought arises, instead of diving in, name it. Say to yourself, this is a thought. Not this is reality, not this is me. Just this is a thought. This simple naming separates you from it. It reminds you that you are the observer, not the object. Another practice is writing. When a storm of thoughts overwhelms you, take pen and paper and write them down. Seeing them outside of your mind weakens their grip. Often, what felt enormous inside shrinks once written. The act of putting distance on paper creates distance in your heart. Breathing also helps. When thoughts rush, focus on your inhale and exhale. Thoughts may still swirl, but your attention anchors to the rhythm of life itself. Each breath becomes a reminder, I am here. I am safe. I am not my thoughts. One woman once told me that for years she lived enslaved by her anxious mind. Every negative thought dictated her emotions. If the thought said, you are not enough, she believed it. If the thought said, you will fail, she surrendered. But then she learned the practice of space. She began visualizing her thoughts as clouds. Each time one arose, she would whisper, cloud. She would watch it float away. At first it felt silly, but over months, her relationship with her mind transformed. She no longer obeyed every thought, she observed. And in that observation, she found peace. The freedom of space is not that thoughts vanish, it is that they no longer control you. Anxiety may still whisper, but you no longer bow. Doubt may still appear, but you no longer collapse. Fear may still knock, but you no longer open the door. You live with thoughts without being ruled by them. So let me ask you, how do you treat your thoughts right now? Do you swallow them whole, believing every word, or can you begin to step back to watch, to name, to breathe? The choice is yours, and each time you create space, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. Here is the paradox: peace does not come from controlling your thoughts. It comes from releasing the need to control them. When you let them pass without attachment, they lose their sharpness. They become background noise instead of commanding voices. The river keeps flowing, but you remain on the bank, steady, calm, free. If this chapter resonates with you, pause and comment below what thought has been controlling you lately, and how can you begin to create space from it. Share it honestly. You may inspire someone else who feels trapped in the same storm. And if you know someone who believes every anxious thought is reality, share this with them. You may offer them the key to their own freedom. And remember to subscribe so that each day you are reminded you are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them pass. Chapter 11. Learning to live lightly, releasing the weight of perfection. Anxiety and perfection are close companions. Where one walks, the other often follows. The anxious mind is rarely content with enough. It demands certainty, it demands control, and it demands perfection. Every decision must be flawless. Every action must be without mistake. Every word spoken must be right. And when life being life refuses to bend to such impossible standards, anxiety seizes the opening and whispers, "You failed. You are not enough. You must try harder." This chase for perfection is exhausting. It is like running with a heavy pack on your back, believing that if you just carry it long enough, you will arrive at peace. But peace never arrives because the weight is the very thing holding you back. Perfection does not lead to freedom, it leads to fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of rejection, fear of never being worthy. And so the anxious heart becomes trapped in a cycle, striving, stumbling, shaming, striving again. Why do we cling so tightly to perfection? Because it promises safety. Deep down, we believe that if we do everything right, no one will criticize us, no one will leave us, nothing bad will happen. Perfection seems like protection, but in truth, it is a prison. No matter how hard you try, life will not be perfect. People will misunderstand you, plans will unravel, mistakes will happen, and the more you demand perfection, the more fragile you become. One small crack feels like complete collapse. Living lightly means releasing this weight. It means loosening your grip on perfection and embracing the freedom of good enough. It means trading control for creativity, fear for courage, pressure for presence. Living lightly does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying more than you were ever meant to hold. The first step is recognizing perfectionism for what it is, fear dressed as ambition. Perfectionism is not about being your best. It is about avoiding shame. It is about controlling how others see you so that you never feel exposed. But the cost is enormous. You sacrifice joy for performance. You sacrifice authenticity for approval. And worst of all, you sacrifice peace for a standard that was never real. The second step is practicing imperfection. This sounds terrifying to the anxious perfectionist, but it is medicine. Speak even if your words are not perfect. Try even if your effort may fail. Rest even if the work is not done. Each act of imperfection loosens the grip of fear. You begin to see that the world does not end when you stumble. In fact, sometimes stumbling leads to the most beautiful paths. The third step is compassion. Perfectionism thrives on inner criticism. The voice inside says, "Not good enough. Not yet. Try harder." Compassion answers, "I am worthy as I am. My value is not tied to my performance. Mistakes are not proof of weakness. They are proof that I am human." With compassion, you begin to measure your life not by flawlessness, but by presence, courage, and love. I once met a young artist who nearly abandoned her passion because of perfectionism. She loved painting, but each time she picked up a brush, her mind screamed, "What if it is not good enough? What if people laugh? What if I am a failure?" She stopped creating altogether, convinced she was protecting herself. But in truth, she was suffocating. One day, she decided to try something new. She gave herself permission to paint badly. She said, "For 1 week, I will paint only for joy, not for perfection." The results were messy, uneven, wild, but they were alive. And through that freedom, her creativity bloomed again. Today, she is thriving not because she learned to be perfect, but because she learned to live lightly. Living lightly also means holding life with open hands. Instead of demanding certainty, you embrace mystery. Instead of demanding control, you practice trust. You stop gripping every detail and start flowing with what comes. This does not make you weak, it makes you resilient. The branch that bends survives the storm, while the one that refuses to bend breaks. So let me ask you, where in your life are you demanding perfection in your work, your relationships, your appearance, your achievements? Notice how heavy it feels to carry that weight. Notice how fragile it makes you. And then imagine setting it down. Imagine speaking freely, trying bravely, loving openly, resting deeply without needing to be flawless. That is what it means to live lightly. Perfectionism says, "Do more, be more, prove more." Living lightly says, "I am enough as I am." Perfectionism says, "If I stumble, I will be rejected." Living lightly says, "If I stumble, I will rise again." Perfectionism says peace comes when everything is perfect. Living lightly says peace comes when I stop demanding perfection. This shift is not easy. Years of conditioning whisper otherwise. But each small act of release strengthens your freedom. Each time you allow imperfection, you grow lighter. Each time you choose presence over performance, you grow freer. And over time, the anxious weight lifts. You discover that life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be lived. So here is my challenge. Choose one area of your life where perfection has been holding you hostage. Today, take a small act of rebellion. Speak the imperfect sentence. Share the imperfect work. Take the imperfect step. And watch how the world keeps turning, how your worth remains untouched, how your heart grows lighter. If this chapter resonates with you, comment below what is one area where you are ready to release perfection and live lightly. Declare it. Inspire others with your courage. And if you know someone crushed under the weight of impossible standards, share this with them. You may give them the permission they have been waiting for. And remember to subscribe so that together we continue to walk lighter, freer, more alive step by imperfect step. Chapter 12. The courage to face what you fear. Fear is the heartbeat of anxiety. It pulses beneath every racing thought, every sleepless night, every sudden panic. Sometimes fear is loud, roaring like thunder in the middle of a storm. Other times it is quiet, a constant hum in the background of your life, reminding you that danger could be around any corner. Fear tells you to shrink, to hide, to avoid. And the more you listen, the smaller your world becomes. Fear is not always wrong. It was given to you as protection. When your ancestors walked through forests filled with predators, fear kept them alive. It sharpened their senses, quickened their breath, prepared them to fight or flee. But in your world today, most of your fears are not lions waiting in the grass. They are imagined dangers, memories from the past, or possibilities that may never come. Fear has outlived its usefulness, yet it still grips you tightly. The tragedy is not that fear exists, it always will. The tragedy is that most people let fear decide their lives. They let it tell them where they can go, who they can be, what they can try. They live half-lives staying within the borders of what feels safe. And while fear may protect them from discomfort, it also protects them from growth, from joy, from freedom. The only way to break this cycle is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to act in spite of fear. It is the whisper that says, I feel afraid, but I will step forward anyway. Every act of courage teaches your anxious mind a new lesson. Fear is not fatal. The storm can be faced, the fire can be walked through, and each time you do, your world expands. Courage begins with honesty. You cannot face what you refuse to name. Many people hide from their fears, pretending they are not there, but avoidance only feeds them. Fear grows in the dark. It shrinks in the light. Naming your fear, saying out loud, I am afraid of this, is the first act of courage. It drags the monster out from under the bed and reveals it for what it is, not a beast, but a shadow. The next step is exposure. Fear weakens when faced directly. The first time you step into what scares you, your heart will race, your hands will shake. But if you stay, if you breathe, if you let the fear rise and fall, something extraordinary happens. The fear fades. Your nervous system learns that you can survive what you dreaded. This is how courage is built, not in giant leaps, but in small, steady exposures to what you once avoided. One man once told me that for years he was terrified of driving after being in a car accident. Every time he thought about getting behind the wheel, his body filled with panic. He avoided it for nearly a decade, relying on others limiting his life. But eventually he grew tired of living small. He decided to start with tiny steps, sitting in the parked car, then turning on the engine, then driving around the block. Each time his fear surged, but he stayed. And each time the fear lost power. Today, he drives wherever he needs to go, not because the fear never comes, but because courage taught him he can handle it. Courage is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. It is the courage to speak your truth in a conversation, the courage to say no when you are afraid of disappointing someone, the courage to try again after failing, the courage to rest when the world demands endless performance. Each act may seem small, but together they build a life of freedom. Fear tells you to wait until you feel ready. Courage knows you will never feel ready. Readiness is not the doorway, it is the result. Only after you act, only after you step into the unknown, do you discover your strength. That is why courage often feels like trembling hands, a pounding heart, a shaky voice. Do not mistake these for weakness. They are proof that you are doing something brave. But courage is not recklessness. It is not ignoring your limits or leaping without thought. True courage is wisdom in motion. It recognizes the fear, respects the risk, but chooses action anyway. It does not deny the danger, it denies the lie that you cannot handle it. So how do you practice courage in daily life? Begin by choosing one fear you have avoided. Perhaps it is speaking in public, meeting new people, traveling alone, or sharing your work. Name it. Then break it into steps. What is the smallest act of courage you could take toward it? Do that. Stay with the fear. Breathe through it. And when you survive, as you will let your nervous system record the truth, I faced it and I lived. Over time, these acts of courage stack like stones. Each one builds your foundation of confidence. And soon, what once felt impossible becomes natural. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I fly?" I want you to imagine your life 5 years from now if you continue letting fear decide. How small will your world be? How many opportunities will you have missed? How much joy will you have denied yourself? Then imagine the opposite your life if you begin to practice courage today. Imagine the freedom, the expansion, the stories you will carry. Both futures are possible. Which one will you choose? Fear will not disappear, but it will no longer dominate you. You will still hear its voice, but it will no longer be the loudest one. Courage will speak louder, freedom will sing stronger, and your life will become larger than your fear ever allowed. So let me ask you, what fear is waiting for your courage? What shadow has ruled you long enough? Write it down, declare it, then take one step, just one, into the unknown. The step may feel small, but it is the beginning of transformation. If this chapter spoke to you, comment below. What is one act of courage you will take this week? Share it so that others may find strength in your decision. And if you know someone who has been shrinking under fear, share this with them. You may be the reminder that their freedom is possible. And remember to subscribe so that together we continue to walk into fear, not to be destroyed by it, but to be made stronger. Chapter 13. The Power of Presence, Choosing Now Over Next. Anxiety is the art of living everywhere but here. It drags you into the past, replaying mistakes and regrets, asking, "What if I had done it differently?" It hurls you into the future, spinning endless scenarios, warning, "What if this goes wrong? What if that falls apart?" Rarely does it allow you to rest in the only place that is real, this present moment. And so you live scattered, your body here, your mind elsewhere, your heart exhausted from traveling between times that no longer exist and times that do not yet exist. But peace is only ever found in the present. The past is gone. You cannot touch it no matter how much you replay it. The future is unborn. You cannot hold it no matter how much you imagine it. All you truly have is now, this breath, this step, this heartbeat. And yet the anxious mind convinces you that now is never enough. It says hurry, prepare, regret, anticipate, and so you miss the beauty of the life in front of you while fearing lives that will never come. The practice of presence is not about denying the past or ignoring the future. It is about reclaiming your power from them. It is about saying, "Yes, I have a past. Yes, I have a future. But right now I choose to be here." In that choice, anxiety loses its grip, because anxiety cannot live in presence. It only survives in the shadows of what was and what might be. When you stand fully in now, you stand beyond its reach. Presence begins with attention. The mind is restless, always wandering, but you can train it to return again and again, like guiding a child back home. When you eat, taste the food instead of scrolling through your phone. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet instead of rehearsing conversations in your head. When you breathe, notice the rise and fall of your chest instead of drowning in what-ifs. Each small act of attention plants you firmly in the soil of now. The anxious mind resists at first. It tells you presence is wasteful. It insists you must prepare for the future, that you cannot afford to rest. But notice how much of your preparation is actually paralysis. Notice how much of your worry has ever prevented disaster. Anxiety has stolen enough of your life. Presence is how you take it back. One of the simplest practices is mindful breathing. Wherever you are, pause. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Say to yourself, I am here. Repeat. Each breath becomes an anchor, keeping you steady in the waves of thought. Another practice is grounding through senses. Look around. What do you see? Hear, touch, smell, taste. Naming these draws you into the richness of now, reminding you that reality is often gentler than imagination. I once met a woman who told me her anxiety had robbed her of her children's early years. She said, I was always worrying about their future. What if they got sick? What if I failed as a mother, that I missed the joy of simply being with them? I blinked and they were grown. Tears filled her eyes as she said, if I could go back, I would spend less time in what ifs and more time in what is. Her words are a lesson for us all. The present is fleeting. If you do not live it, you lose it. Presence also requires surrender. Anxiety clings to the illusion of control, believing that if you think enough, you can prevent pain. But presence says, I release the need to control tomorrow. I will meet it when it comes. For now, I choose to live. This surrender is not recklessness, it is wisdom. It is knowing that life is lived one moment at a time, and when you give yourself to this moment fully, tomorrow takes care of itself. The paradox is this: when you live in presence, you are actually more prepared for the future. Why? Because presence gives you clarity, focus, energy. Worry scatters your strength, presence gathers it. Worry clouds your vision, presence sharpens it. Worry exhausts you before the challenge even comes. Presence equips you to meet it. Living in now is not ignoring what is ahead. It is strengthening yourself to handle it when it arrives. So let me ask you, where are you right now? Not physically, but mentally. Are you lost in yesterday? Are you trapped in tomorrow? Or are you here, breathing alive, safe in this moment? The answer matters, because your life is happening here, not there. Your joy is waiting here, not there. Your freedom is here, not there. Imagine what your life would feel like if you lived more moments in presence. Imagine walking through your day with full attention, savoring the taste of food, the sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight. Imagine facing challenges not with frantic worry, but with calm clarity. I am here. I can handle this step. Imagine resting at night, not replaying the past or rehearsing the future, but sinking gratefully into the peace of now. That life is not far away. It begins with a single choice to return again and again to this moment. The anxious mind will pull you away 1,000 times. That is okay. Presence is not perfection. Presence is practice. Each time you notice you have wandered and gently bring yourself back, you are strengthening your freedom. Over time, the habit of fear weakens, and the habit of being here grows strong. If this chapter touched you, pause right now, breathe deeply, look around. Name one thing you see that is beautiful, one sound that soothes you, one sensation that grounds you. Let gratitude rise. You are here, you are alive, and in this moment, you are safe. If this message resonates with you, comment below. What practice will you use today to return to presence? Share it and inspire others who are learning to live in now. And if you know someone who is always trapped in yesterday or tomorrow, share this with them. You may help them find their way back home. And remember to subscribe so that together we can keep choosing presence over panic now, over next life, over fear. Chapter 14, Resetting Your Mindset, Choosing Freedom Over Fear. There comes a point in every journey where you must pause and ask yourself, am I living by choice or am I living by fear? For too long, anxiety has been the compass pointing you not toward joy, but toward avoidance. It has dictated what you say, where you go, how you live. It has whispered that safety lies in smallness, in silence, in control. But deep inside, you know the truth. You were not made to live caged. You were made for freedom. A mindset reset is not about pretending anxiety does not exist. It is about shifting the foundation from which you live. It is about moving from fear-driven choices to freedom-driven choices. It is about asking, not what will make me feel safe right now, but what will make me truly alive in the long run. This shift changes everything because fear only thinks of immediate relief, while freedom thinks of lasting growth. The first step in resetting your mindset is recognition. Begin to notice the hidden ways fear has been shaping your decisions. How many times have you said no, not because you did not want something, but because you were afraid? How many times have you stayed silent, not because you agreed, but because you feared judgment? How many times have you held back, not because you lacked ability, but because you lacked courage? Recognition is painful, but it is also liberating. Once you see the pattern, you can begin to break it. The second step is reframing. Fear asks, what if it goes wrong? Freedom asks, what if it goes right? Fear says, if I fail, I will be ruined. Freedom says, if I fail, I will learn and rise stronger. The story you tell yourself matters more than the circumstance itself. Reframing is the art of choosing a story that empowers you instead of imprisons you. Every time anxiety presents a narrative of disaster, you have the power to write a different ending. The third step is commitment. Resetting your mindset is not a one-time declaration. It is a daily choice. Each morning you must ask yourself, will I live small today or will I live free? And then you must commit not to perfection but to progress. Some days fear will win. That is human. But commitment means you return again and again to the path of freedom. It means you do not let one stumble become surrender. One woman once told me that her greatest transformation began the day she drew a line on paper. On one side, she wrote fear-based living. On the other, freedom-based living. Under fear, she listed silence, avoidance, perfectionism, people-pleasing. Under freedom, she listed authenticity, courage, presence, self-trust. Each day she asked, which side am I choosing today? Over time, the choice became clearer. The awareness itself became her reset. Resetting your mindset also means raising your standards. For too long, you have tolerated anxiety as the ruler of your life. You have accepted panic as normal fear, as inevitable smallness, as destiny. But what if you refused? What if you declared, I will no longer live as a prisoner to my fear? I will no longer accept a half-life. I will no longer bow to thoughts that shrink me. This declaration is powerful because it shifts you from victim to author. You stop letting anxiety write your story. You take the pen back. But a reset also requires gentleness. You cannot bully yourself into freedom. You cannot demand that fear vanish overnight. Resetting is not about erasing fear. It is about choosing differently in its presence. Each time fear arises, instead of collapsing, you pause and ask, what would freedom choose here? And then, even trembling, you take that step. Consider this: anxiety says, stay safe, stay small, stay hidden. Freedom says, take the step, speak the truth, trust the process. Which voice will you follow? Each choice builds your future. Each choice strengthens either the chains of fear or the wings of freedom. I once met a man who lived decades under fear. He avoided travel, avoided relationships, avoided risk. His world grew smaller and smaller until it was only a shell. But in his 60s, something shifted. He said, I realized my life was ending whether I risked or not. And if I stayed in fear, I would die having never lived. He began slowly joining a group, speaking honestly with friends, trying new things. The fear was still there, but he chose freedom anyway. And in those final years, he lived more fully than ever before. His story is a reminder it is never too late to reset your mindset. So I ask you now, what will you choose? Will you continue letting fear dictate your path, or will you reclaim your freedom? Will you keep rehearsing disasters, or will you begin writing dreams? Will you keep shrinking, or will you expand into the life waiting for you? Resetting your mindset is not easy, but it is worth everything. Because once you choose freedom over fear, your entire life shifts. The storms still come, but you no longer bow to them. The thoughts still whisper, but you no longer believe them. You walk taller, breathe deeper, live wider. You become the author of your story again. If this chapter touched you, pause and comment below. What is one area of your life where you are ready to reset your mindset from fear to freedom? Declare it. Your words may be the spark that helps someone else reset theirs. And if you know someone who has been living small, share this with them. You may be the voice that reminds them that freedom is possible. And remember to subscribe so that together we keep raising our standards, breaking our chains, and choosing freedom over fear. Chapter 15. Your life beyond fear begins now. You have walked with me through the storm. You have faced the whispers of anxiety, the weight of perfection, the illusions of control, the restless nights, and the endless what-ifs. You have learned to breathe into fear, to ground yourself in presence, to treat yourself with compassion, to release the stones you were never meant to carry. You have seen that anxiety, though loud, is not your master. You have seen that fear, though persistent, is not fatal. And now here at the end, one truth remains: your life beyond fear begins the moment you decide it does. Too many people wait. They wait for courage to appear. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect certainty, but waiting is just another name for fear. If you keep waiting for the storm to pass, you will never live, because life is not lived after fear, it is lived through fear. Your freedom is not a gift waiting in the future. It is a choice waiting in the present. The choice is simple, though not easy. Will you continue to live in the prison of anxious thoughts, or will you step into the freedom of imperfect courage? Will you let fear write the rest of your story, or will you take back the pen? No one else can decide this for you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your mentors. Only you. Here is the truth: anxiety will not vanish. It will still whisper, it will still knock, but you are no longer the same person who first heard its voice. You have tools now, you have perspective now, you have strength now. You have learned to recognize the storm without drowning in it, to see thoughts, without believing them, to feel fear without bowing to it. You are no longer a prisoner, you are a warrior, you are a witness, you are free. Freedom does not mean you never tremble. Freedom means you tremble and step forward anyway. Freedom does not mean you never feel fear. Freedom means you no longer let fear decide. Freedom does not mean the storm ends. Freedom means you carry calm within it. So I ask you, with all the weight of this journey behind us, what will you do now? What step will you take into the life waiting for you? Do not wait for certainty, it will never come. Do not wait for perfection, it will never arrive. Take the step anyway. Begin the conversation, share the truth, start the project, say yes, say no. Live as if your freedom matters, because it does. There will be days when you stumble. There will be nights when anxiety feels louder again. Do not despair. Freedom is not a straight path. It is a spiral. Each time you fall, you rise stronger. Each time you falter, you return faster. Each time fear whispers, you recognize it more quickly for what it is, just noise, not truth. You are not back at the beginning. You are deeper, wiser, freer than before. I want you to imagine your life 1 year from now, if you choose freedom today. Imagine waking each morning no longer dreading the storm, but meeting it with strength. Imagine speaking your truth without shrinking. Imagine resting at night without the weight of perfection crushing you. Imagine walking into uncertainty not with panic, but with trust. That life is possible. It is not reserved for the lucky or the fearless. It is waiting for anyone willing to choose courage over fear, presence over panic, compassion over cruelty. It is waiting for you. The final reset is this: you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not your anxious thoughts. You are not your restless nights. You are not your past stumbles. You are the one who has walked through all of it and is still here, still breathing, still ready to rise. Your strength is not that you never felt fear. it is that you never gave up. So stand tall, lift your head, breathe deeply. The storm may still surround you, but within you is a stillness deeper than the storm, a strength greater than fear, a freedom larger than anxiety. Claim it, live it, do not wait another day. Your life beyond fear begins now. If this final chapter spoke to your heart, I ask you to pause and reflect. What is the first courageous step you will take after reading these words? Declare it in the comments. Share it with the world. Inspire others with your choice. And if this journey has touched you, share it widely. You never know whose life might be waiting for a word that unlocks their chains. And remember to subscribe so that together we continue walking this path of freedom, courage, and presence. Because in the end, anxiety does not win. Fear does not win. Freedom does. And freedom is yours if you choose it.